So someone suggested to me making a video based on common mechanics you see in Final Fantasy XIV. And after looking around to see what's out there, there is a ton of videos on this. A lot of the comments, a very common thread was, I can't always see what's going on because of the visual clutter on the screen. And that's something that I can help you with. Rather than teaching you common mechanics, I'm going to show you some quality of life settings that will help with the visual clutter on the screen and make it easier for you to perceive them yourself. I promise by the end of the video, you will have taken away at least 2 things that you weren't already doing if you were new. If you've been here a while, you probably found them, but who knows? I could enlighten you on something cool. Let's see. Before we get started, I did say that I wasn't going to make the mechanics video because there's a ton of them out there, but if you'd rather see the mechanics video just in my voice and explanation, I'm more than happy to do that. Just mention so in the comments below. We're going to start with system config first. First and foremost, this is absolutely a preference, but I highly recommend borderless windowed as your setting, because if you ever alt tab out of the game while you're in windowed, while you're in full screen, then your screen blacks out and sometimes it can cause issues. So borderless windowed is the way to go. If you prefer windowed, that's fine. I don't like the border because it immerses me better when I do it this way. So it's just a personal preference. So there's a ton of settings that you can tweak in this game in order to really make it your own, but I'm going to try and only focus on the ones that are going to improve your quality of life. If you want me to do another video that covers more broad settings that might be of help to you, I can do that as well. But the main focus here is for things that will aid in your visual assistance, I suppose. So next we're going to quickly talk about HUD layout. There's quite a few settings and ways to adjust your HUD. So I'm going to touch on some of the ones that you may not find if you didn't know, and the ones that I find help me the most as a player. As you can see, there's tons of boxes. Things with purple text means they don't show on my screen, and things that are white do show on my screen. My HUD works for me. The way I lay it out isn't going to be for everybody, and that's okay. But let me show you the important settings here. You can see that my hotbars come in at different sizes. Oops. If you go into the UI element settings here, you can change the size of each individual one to be bigger or smaller based on your personal preferences, which is why mine are at different sizes. You can also see that there are different shapes. You can make it a line. You can make it a vertical line. You can stack them. For these ones in particular, my preference is here. Party list is another big one. I have my party list a little bit bigger than everything else. When you're healing, you're pretty reliant on your party list, both for selecting characters, if you're using mouse and keyboard, or even if you're using the D-pad, but also for tracking HP and buffs. So I have mine just a little bit bigger. All right, so let's talk about your buffs and debuffs. So I have 3 different areas where this appears: my enfeeblements, my enhancements, and over here is my other. Enhancements are your buffs, of course, things that benefit you. Enfeeblements are your debuffs, and other is miscellaneous. My current other buffs are the Road to 90 buff and the 2 free company buffs. If I eat food, my food buff will also show up there. But enhancements and enfeeblements are the important thing. Enfeeblements, as you start getting into high-end content where depending on the buff or debuff you have, will affect how you will react to a situation, you'll want those split up. I highly recommend splitting them up. You can make them as big as you want. I don't have mine particularly big because I will typically rely on the party list first, and I'll explain how to adjust that setting when we switch over to that part. But you can split them up into, you can have them be one big bulk, which I think is the default. You can split them into 3, or you can split them into 4. I don't find use out of conditional enhancements being split into its own thing, which is exactly why I don't do that. For your job gauges, and mine is the powder gauge here, you can switch it to simple mode if you don't want that big bulky display on your screen. I prefer the thematics of it, so that's why I leave mine like this. But if you want it to be a simple bar, simple iconography like this, you can switch to that too, and it takes up less screen space. That's just not my preference. Probably what I would consider the most valuable change to your HUD layout is actually in the target info. So you'll see mine is split into target info progress bar, target info HP, and target info status. In the settings for this, you can split them up by toggling target independently. Normally they're all one element like this. So I'm going to split them. The reason that I highly recommend this, and I'll show you pretty right away here, hopefully, is target info HP doesn't need to be looked at all the time. Target info status is important for maintaining dots especially, but the progress bar, which you'll see I have set as 200, having this full size is such a help. And I'll show you why right now. As soon as this guy starts casting something, and you'll see right there, Doom Void Guillotine. Big letters, I can see how long I have. Having your progress bar large and available to you when creatures are casting makes such a difference. You'll also see I can see my debuff down at the bottom there, underneath his HP bar, because that's how I organized it. I can see the attack name, which is a big way to tell what you're dealing with in a lot of fights. It may be the only way to tell in some cases. And again, it gives you the answer on how long you have to deal with whatever the attack might be. So, highly, Shadowflame, recommend that you turn this feature on. Tanks are ranged DPSs who use interrupts. It's also easier to see when the bar is red and flashing when it's much bigger, right? Like that, so you know when to use your interrupts. As well as once you've memorized which attacks you can stun or need to stun, when that big title comes up on your screen, you'll know to stun it. Highly recommend, can't recommend enough. Make the progress bar really, really big. Because then even if you can't necessarily see everything that you need to, you at least have an idea of what's coming and can try and look for it with a little more information behind it. That's system config and HUD layout. Just a couple quick things I wanted to cover before we get into the real quality of life changes. Character configuration. There are a ton of things that you can do in here, and it can be overwhelming. So the next setting that I want to talk about is going to be your battle effects setting. And this is going to be found under control settings, under the character tab, and all the way at the bottom. Battle effects settings is exactly what it sounds like. How much visibility you have on the effects that come from abilities. Normally, when you use an ability, you will see all the flashy, shiny effects, right? And that's for show all. If you change it to show limited, it becomes less intrusive. Show limited will offer the sparks like that one did. And then I'm going to cut this video. In a few seconds, you'll see what it looks like when I choose show none instead. If you show none, you won't see any of those sparkles and lights. So my current setting, because this is my preference, is to have show all on myself because I'm the main character of my screen and I want to enjoy all the cool shit that I could do, and show limited on the rest. And the reason for that is, while I can't really see a ton of their animations, the visual clutter in a 24-person raid is awful. I cannot see anything. And I'm sure this is one of the biggest concerns that you guys have. Even in an 8-person party, I recommend changing your party and others to show limited instead of show all. If you like the pretty lights and colors, leave it all on show all. But this is one of the biggest tips that will probably help you a ton, that everybody knows, but you don't know to ask until you say something about it and somebody's like, oh yeah, you could just turn this off. Let me get ahead of that for you. Limsa Lominsa. As I'm sure everybody knows, and I'm on a less busy server, it gets real hard to see anything in Limsa. There are a few ways that you can navigate, such as holding down X to make all their names go away. But let's talk about settings that you can use to make this easier on yourself. So first, under display name settings, you can change the way names look on your UI. You can make them shorter, you can make them longer, starting with my own. And own is the first tab under display name settings. You can always have it showing. You can change when it's showing. You can also change what color it is. You can hide titles if you don't care about that sort of thing to reduce the visual clutter. You can also make it show when your HP is dropping right above your head. And you can do this for your pets and everything as well. But others is where things get super helpful. So if you're looking at everybody in front of me right now, and we're going to use other player characters because that's what all these people are, you can change their name, or I'm sorry, their name color to something that you prefer that makes it stick out more or less. It's all, again, always just a matter of preference here. You can change it so their names don't show at all, ever, and you can only see the PC names around you if you're more into that sort of thing. Or when in and out of battle, or when you're targeting them, you can see what their names are. You can also change how long they are. So if you only want to see their first names and their last initials so that you can kind of get through this better, you can do that. If you only want to see their last names, you can also do that. And then when you walk up to them, you can say, hello, Miss Berry. Or if you just straight up want their initials so that it's, again, less word visual clutter, you can also make that choice. When you click on them, you'll be able to see their full name anyway. I personally, when I'm out and about, like their full names up, so that's the way I leave it. You can hide their titles, just like I mentioned on myself. You can change the colors of people so that they stand out as well. So my friends currently have this purple color, so this dark purple. So when I'm in a group, if there's a dark purple name somewhere, I know it's somebody on my friends list. Alliance members, when you're in an alliance raid, have that green name, I think by default. I've just never preferred to change that. And I have a slightly different shade of blue for party members. But there's a little more that goes into this than that. You can change all of the colors of display names for NPCs as well, if that's something that you want to do. So under display name settings general, this is probably going to be one of the biggest helps after reducing the amount of visual clutter from people's spell effects, is adjusting these general settings for character configuration. The first thing that you can take a look at here is if you want to have a class or job icon displayed, you can toggle that off. I like having this on. You can also change it between the old version, where it's like the icon with the colored background for role, or the newer version, more sleek with just the icon. I think early on, having the type 1 is better as you're learning what classes go into what roles, so you can understand them better. And then as you develop and get better at the game, you'll be able to turn that off because you'll just know, oh, that's a paladin. You can also turn off what areas this appears in. So if you don't want it to appear in certain areas, it doesn't have to. You can, of course, adjust the size of display names, which is pretty straightforward here, with maximum being ridiculous and smallest being my preferred. You're just going to find the one that works the best for you. Lastly, and the big thing that I think is super helpful, and I will be able to show you what that looks like as soon as my queue pops, is adjusting your party member settings according to role. So as you can see here, I have it set up as all of my tanks in my party will be blue, all of my healers in my party will be green, and all of my DPS in my party will be this particular shade of red. That is a slightly different shade of red from enemies, and not an eyesore to me. My username will be an exception to this. It will stay the color that it normally is, which is this color. That's just my preference. Having display progress bar turned on is also important. Don't turn this off. This ties back to what I was talking about in UI earlier. So I'm not going to get into the nitty gritty of this fight. What you need to know is looking at the group, you can see all of my DPSs have red names. My tank has a blue name, and my fellow healer has a green name. And that is how I tell who's who when I'm going through any particular fight. The last big one that I'm going to talk about is going to be under log window settings. Log window settings, general, name display settings. This is geared specifically towards your chat log, but I do find it helpful for tying into what's going on with your screen, because if everything's all one color in your chat, sometimes it's hard for you to tell who's talking if you're not already quick at that. So you can toggle how long their name is in the chat, which I leave on full name. This is my preference, as well as what world they're from. This isn't super important. I just like to know. You can toggle whether or not they have icons on, so you can see exactly what class or role they are if that's something that you want to have on. You can have it display their class abbreviations if that's something that you prefer. You can also have it apply the colors that you prefer to their names in chat. I also do not prefer to have this on. I like my chat to be all one color, but this can be helpful if you have their characters colored. It ties to their role so you know who's talking. The actual last, because I might have said last already, the actual last setting that I wanted to touch on because it almost slipped my mind was party list. I don't have a full party list available, but you can see my little mini just me party list here. The important things to know are, just like in the other places I showed, you can change how much of your username is being shown. You can also change the number of visible status effects, which I can actually kind of demonstrate if I am an Astro instead. The number of effects shown can be grown or shrank based on what you want your preference to be under status icon effect to display. I cap it at 7. More is a little too much, but I like having the extra visual for if I need it. Honestly, I may not even keep it at 7 because it does tend to get long into your screen as well. But that's where I look for my debuffs more often than not, so that's why I recommend that spot for that. You can still use the ones that I showed earlier on the UI demonstration. You can also order your party list based on how you want it to display. I always have mine tank healer DPS with myself at the top. You can also take that a step further and organize it by which ones you want to have displayed first, second, or third. I don't have a particular order on these because I don't feel the need for it, but it can be helpful if it's something that you want to get into the nitty-gritty details of. So, as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, there are tons and tons of different settings you can adjust to make your gameplay experience better, more tolerable, more engaging, less visually cluttered, whatever the case may be. There's tons of settings. I only tried to cover the ones that would help you in being able to recognize effects happening on screen and just reduce overall visual clutter. If you want me to make a video going into a little more of the details on some of the other settings that you could do to improve your quality of life, then please let me know in the comments. There's also a good chance that I missed some stuff, so if anybody posts that in the comments, I will do my best to add a pinned comment with all those things and crediting you for reminding me, because there may even be settings that I'm missing. For the most part, I think I've captured them all, but you never know. If you want to ask me any specific questions, you can either do that in the comments, or you can join the Discord, or ask me when I'm on Twitch a couple nights a week. All the links will be in the description. You're also welcome to join our free company, the AzureRogues, on either Rafflesia, on Dynamis, or Crystal Coeurl. And as always, if you have anything in particular you'd like to see in a future video, do let me know, and I will take that into consideration. And again, your comment might be what inspires my next one. So as always, I appreciate everybody. Thank you for watching, and I will see you very soon.